Hello, Civ fans. Welcome to the very first Look live stream. My name is Sarah Darney, your host for today, and I am joined in studio by Ed Beach, lead designer, and Dennis Shirk, lead producer. Thank you guys for coming.
No problem.
Awesome. So we're excited. We're going to show you guys some Hungary gameplay today and talk a little bit about the design behind that and how it fits into Gathering Storm. So why Hungary?
Hungary is kind of our Eastern European representative this time. So we knew we wanted to add some more Eastern European civs. I've been to Hungary, I've been to Budapest, found it a really interesting culture and with a long storied past going back to when they were in the Middle Ages defending Europe from the outside invaders, like initially maybe the Mongols, but then later the Ottomans. So the important piece of history that we've never covered in a Civ game before. So it was great to finally get them in this time.
Oh right, yeah, first time Civ.
First time Civ.
Yeah, very exciting. So why Matthias?
Matthias is recognized as one of their 2 or 3 strongest kings that they had. He's a super well-rounded figure historically, sort of the Renaissance man. Not only was he able to push Hungary's geographic extent to its largest, but he was also quite well-read and had a huge library. His library is very famous. So we had trouble designing this Civ, trying to figure out which things of his we wanted to emphasize the most. There was just so much to put in there. So once we realized that, we were like, okay, this guy's a great pick.
Yeah, I imagine there were a lot of options that you could have gone with. And that's something that I always find very interesting is how the history fits into the gameplay with all of the civs.
Yeah, and we end up having to decide, like, what's the gameplay specialty of this person. And once we have an idea for that, that's sort of, we pick the things that kind of build around that. And so once we realized that his conquest, what was unusual about it was that he was able to recruit armies of mercenaries from a lot of the nearby states and build up his army strength that way. We all of a sudden realized that there was a mechanic that was in the game, it's been there since the base game, but it's very underutilized, the levying of city-state troops. And if we could build sort of a Civ whose specialty was doing that very, very well, that would fit his history, but it would also be a style of gameplay that we really hadn't seen before.
Yeah, for sure. That's his unique ability, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And what about Hungary's unique ability, Pearl of the Danube?
Right. So if you go to Budapest, you find out that Budapest originated as 2 separate cities, Buda on one side, which is the oldest, sort of the historical capital side, and then the more economic and more recent Civ is the other side of the river where Pest is, and that they merged once they had enough bridges over the river and decided to make it all one metropolitan area into Budapest. And so we thought that was very interesting. There are several key rivers that flow through Hungary, and all their major cities are along those rivers. And so we decided that we wanted to give you a bonus for building your city so it straddled a river.
Okay.
And so the bonus is, if you have a city center up against a river, those hexes that are directly across a river hex side from that city center are the best places to put your other districts of your city, because they get a 50% production bonus both for the base district and for all the buildings that go there. So, some of the late game buildings, research labs and things like that can get really expensive. And so if all the buildings, including those late game ones, are getting that bonus, it's a really quick way to get your empire going.
Great. I think that this actually is something we can just jump right into. We've got 2 saves that we want to go through today. And we have our lovely driver, Carl, taking us through these. In our first save, we just want to give you guys a little bit of context as to what's going on in this game. So we're at that point in the project where you guys get to just kind of play the game and see how it's balanced and how it plays. So this is one of your saves, right, Ed?
It is. It's not my finest moment, though.
Okay.
It's a game I struggled in, and I decided that the struggles told an interesting story.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through that story, but it's definitely not one where I'm just rolling over and the world is bending the knee. I'm having some trouble here. So let's go ahead and look at the start position I had, where Buda is. And the interesting thing about Hungary is that it's a start bias both for being near rivers, obviously, and then also for geothermal fissures.
Okay.
Which feeds into their thermal bath unique building that we'll talk about a little bit more in a second. So if we look at this, our city is actually right at a continental divide. You can see there are two thermal fissures to the east of it, and a volcano, which thankfully is dormant at the moment.
For now.
Yeah, and there are other dormant volcanoes nearby that look nice and peaceful as well. There's one on the south side of this lake. So I settled there, and it's great that there's a river because I knew that I could build a couple districts on the other side of it. It's not the best river. The best rivers for Hungary are those really bendy, snaky rivers where you can put the city center right in the big sweeping bend of the river, and then all of a sudden there are 3, maybe even 4 spots across from it where you can build.
Now, we actually did a little bit with the map gen this time to kind of...
Right, and then that was, Carl and his QA team came back to us and said, we love Hungary, they're really fun to play, but they'd be a lot more fun if the rivers weren't so straight in this game. And so we actually went and, just tweaking up a little bit how snaky our rivers are made a big difference in how, how much fun it was to play as Hungary.
So there's just Hungary. Pretty much anybody just made the map a lot more interesting to play on.
Yeah, so if you look over to the southeast of Buda, right where Carl's going there, we've got a nice big snaky river, and it just makes the maps look more interesting. And now we've all got volcanoes and river floodplains. It's just, I think the maps now in Gathering Storm are just a lot more fun to play with. Now this is a fractal map.
Okay.
And the reason that we chose fractal map is, besides showing Hungary today, we have our new canal district that we want to show off as well. So the fractal map is always great because it has snaky landforms and lots of lakes and bays and estuaries and stuff like that. So it's a great place for canals.
Perfect.
So that's why I chose that. I chose civs in this game that were sort of from that Eastern European area. So Poland, I made sure was in the game. And actually, Poland and Hungary historically have been mostly, very good allies over the years. So I thought, yeah, that'll be a good one to put in there.
Did it work out that well?
Will be nice to Matthias, and they'll have a fun relationship and be friendly all game. But it didn't work out that way at all. So what I noticed right away is I don't have many rivers nearby me. There's some city-states to the east that are along rivers that were already in place when I started exploring the map. So I needed another river to build up my Hungarian empire. So I found that there's a river to the west over near where the current Polish city of Warsaw is located. And I rushed a settler to that river as fast as I could. That was sort of my main thing I was doing in like the first 30 turns. But sadly, I didn't make it there in time.
Yeah, I see that.
So Jadwiga put down Warsaw, was one of her second or third cities. And I didn't get the chance to put down, a nice river city that I could get those bonuses. So I had to settle for a different city site further up that isthmus. And lo and behold, Jadwiga got mad at me for settling near her. And she declared a surprise war on me.
Oh, good.
So I actually lost that city and had to retake it. And then once I retake it, I made peace with her. So we've been going at it. Jadwiga is on my list.
Okay.
And I'm finally getting some retribution here because it looks like the city that she settled in between these two lakes is finally going to be mine. So we're going to have Carl go ahead and finish that city off. We have enough people there that it should fall this turn. And I actually already brought a settler with me.
Okay.
Because sort of my dream for this Hungarian empire is that for the first time in world history, Hungary is going to rule the seas.
Oh,
Hungary's a pretty landlocked nation, so naval power hasn't really been their thing. But I thought it'd be fun to sort of have that little Civ alt history feel and have a great Hungarian navy. So, do
any of their bonuses really play into that, or are you challenging yourself?
That was just challenging myself, just having some fun with the game. So I wanted to be able to sail from my capital out to the seas. So because of these lakes and because of our new canal feature, that's entirely possible.
Okay, now he just raised that city.
That's good. That's what I wanted to do. Because if he had taken it, it would have been 2 tiles from that city to the lake that's up near our capital.
Now, that was your city before, right?
No.
That was one of hers entirely?
She keeps sorting
we care not for her citizens.
Now, normally we would have to worry greatly about the warmongering penalty for raising a city.
Right.
And in both the base game and Rise and Fall, that was definitely something that we worried about a lot. We've told everyone that there's a new system called the grievance system that replaces the warmongering system. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to open up our diplomacy screen that shows us our relationship with Jadwiga. And we'll see on the right-hand end of that, there's a brand new tab, which is the grievances log.
Okay.
And we can kind of see throughout the game what's happened in the history between us in terms of how we've angered each other and sort of what the world makes of all that.
This is a currency for revenge.
Okay.
So it's not like before where you're just a warmonger or you're not. We're actually going to be tracking now all the offenses that you've made against others or that they've made against you. And depending how offensive those things were, that gives you more leeway in the eyes of the world and everybody watching to do what you need to do to regain your honor.
So what we can see here is on turn 35 to 39, we had that first war.
Yep.
And she declared a surprise war, so she got the maximum penalty of 150 grievances. Then she took my city, and I was very sad. And so that gave her 25 more grievances. I was able to take it back, so we didn't have to like renegotiate cities in the peace deal. So there were 175 grievances on her, and definitely she was the one that was being looked at as a warmonger by the rest of the world.
Right.
But what happens is early in the game, this is ancient era stuff. Before there was no warmongering penalty in the ancient era. Now all the penalties still apply no matter what era it is. It's just how fast the world starts to forget about those grievances. Basically what we call the decay rate of the grievances is.
Revenge bucks are no longer worth quite as much.
Right. And later in the game, you know, then the grievance will stick around more. But early in the game, it's 10 grievances drop per turn. So there were, you know, 25 turns between the two wars that we've had. So the world had forgotten about her initial transgressions when she upped and declared war again on me. So that put her at 150 grievances. And yeah, we took her city, we actually raised it, and we didn't care about those Polish citizens living there, but that's actually only 90 grievances. It's not as bad as her initial declaration of war. So the moment she's still the one who
that's looked upon
as the aggressive party here.
I think that this system is going to make me a much more violent player.
Yeah, especially you know, when you get basically you're getting told someone declared war on you.
Yeah.
The world wants you to make that up.
There you go. So, the world wants it. It's for the greater good.
Yep.
It always felt like it was getting in the way before. You'd have the warmonger penalties. They invaded you. They did something bad, but let's say they weren't successful. They didn't even take that first city. But if you redeclared on them, if you wanted to take that city back, maybe the staging area for all of their constant assaults, you couldn't necessarily do that with everybody turning out and going, blah, what are you doing? You're a horrible person. But they declared war on us 5 times. This now allows you to do that. You have that flexibility.
And it's not just war declarations and city conquests that feed into it. It's also like if you're attacking a city-state, everybody notices that. So that's a deterrent for the AI to attack city-states for sure. And
that's good to know.
Yep. And then the promise system works into it as well. So initially, if you you know, promise not to settle near somebody or any of the promises we've had in the game, if you start breaking those, that adds grievances, and repeatedly breaking it. It used to be you got kind of a one-time diplomatic penalty for that. Now, if you just over and over again just extract artifacts from someone's territory, it'll notice every time you do that, and the grievances will just keep adding up on you.
Excellent. All right, so is there anything else that you want to look at in this particular save?
Just a little bit more about the geography of where we are.
Perfect.
So up to the northeast of our city, we have actually the Icelandic volcano, and I don't think we've really shown.
What's that one called?
It's a trap.
Yes, that was a trap. Especially since I know both you guys have been to Iceland and I have not, so I feel super trapped on this one. So we're going to, Carl, turn on tile yields here, and we'll just see. We've been talking about how you get fertility from volcanic eruptions, and it's a little tough to see until we zoom in, but you can see that we're just starting to stack up some yields. So the way the natural wonder volcanoes like this in Kilimanjaro work are, we took away a lot of the bonuses that they had before. So they were actually really great places to settle near before. We stripped down those bonuses, and now it's from the eruptions. So it's part of that system where you decide how crazy you want your disaster intensity to be when you start the game. And if you like it dangerous, you actually do also benefit by getting increased yield. So you kind of get to choose when you start up your game.
That's a fantastic example of the risk versus rewards, because you can see on some of those tiles, there's mad yields, and if you can tolerate the risk level of occasionally having your farm burned down, knowing that you're going to want to go in and repair it and really make use of these spots, you can have terrific city locations if you're
and then
okay
there
with
are also
the risk.
risk rewards, like there are lots of bonuses for settling right up against a mountain.
Yes.
And putting districts up there, but...
That's a particularly brave man who does that next to a volcano.
Exactly. So we actually have a settler that's headed up that way, I think just to the west of where we're looking right now. Yeah, so he's going to... it's also nice that there's a river there, so we'll be able to put a couple districts across the river. So that's a good spot for Hungary. There was another natural wonder, the Ubsurner Hollow. It's also just north of our capital. So that was sort of why I stuck with this game. I saw a lot of potential for where we're going with this. I had a really cool blizzard over top of this hollow earlier in the game, and that just looked awesome. So. Good stuff. Awesome. So the one last thing we need to do is we need to talk about our long-term plan for naval domination.
Okay.
So I've been saying we can get from our capital out to the sea. Let's talk about that a little bit. So Buda is just 2 tiles away from that lake. So we can certainly build a harbor in that lake and start getting naval forces created in our capital. Then the next isthmus we have between the 2 lakes is 3 tiles wide. And the way canals work is canals have to be next to a water tile on one side and either another water tile on the other side or a city tile.
Okay.
It has to be on flat land.
No hills.
And you can't make a 3-way water junction. You have to be sort of just be, you know, having a straight pass through without any 3-way confusions. So we actually, I think we're going to end up, once we load the next game, you'll see where we settle. I think we push down that settler 1 more hex to the southeast, and then we have 2 tiles on one side and 1 flat tile on the other side that we can use for the canal.
Great.
And actually even an aqueduct as well to get fresh water there. So we're going to build a canal there, and then finally our city over near Warsaw. We already are seeing this canal graphic that's applied to the city center coming into that city, but on the far side of it, we're going to have to pick one of the flat tiles on the other side of it. Then we're out to the sea pretty much, except for there's some ice blocking us up to the northeast. So we're going to have to worry about that last spit of land, and we'll try to put just a regular old canal city down there. So once we go into the next save, we can kind of see what the whole layout's going to look like.
Yeah, if we're ready to do that, we can bring it back to the studio, and I've got a couple questions about canals for you. So canals they've become almost a meme among the Civ community now, but why now? Why canals now?
Well, canals fit in with our whole theme of Gathering Storm is all about the relationship between mankind and civilizations and the planet, and how that's gone over the course of human history. So we wanted to obviously have natural disasters as sort of the world and nature pushing against man, but we wanted to show that man has also done a great job of, you know, finding ways to manipulate the planet and turn things in their favor as well. So I think that's sort of the theme that we put into that intro video that we showed last week, which was great fun to be able to share that with everybody. And so canals are just one of the canals and dams and railroads that we'll talk about later, things like that. We have a number of different kind of engineering projects, we call them, that show how we've been able to harness nature.
Right. So were there any technical or gameplay challenges that...
Everyone you can imagine.
Everyone.
Yes. When people actually play the game, they're going to go, oh, this works so well, and it's so smooth, and the canals connect all properly. And they have no idea over the last 4 months what it took to actually make this all work and cooperate. We've had some crazy saves with canals doing some crazy things, and it was a blast, but it was a challenge because our graphics team is always looking for something to really sink their teeth into. And this time around, whether it's coastal flooding, terrain deformation, canals, the challenge of putting a canal through an existing city, all of those really gave that part of the engineering team something to chew on, and it really came out fantastic. It was gorgeous.
Cool.
And they exceeded our expectations when we started, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, we kept adding more and more natural elements and disasters and making sure that they could keep up, and all of a sudden they were ready for more, and we just kept piling on in, and it worked out.
All right, so I know Carl is itching to get into this game because we've got a couple challenges for him.
Yep.
So let's dive in, and he can get started with our second save and just play. So you've got 3 missions for Carl.
Right.
What are these missions?
First mission is, we're playing as Hungary. We need city-state troops.
Yes.
And off to our east, there's our loyal ally, Rapa Nui, which is one of our new city-states in Gathering Storm. And they allow you to build the Moai, the island head, as well, a unique improvement. But the other city-state over there, Granada, has been conquered by our arch nemesis number 2, Mr. Pedro from Brazil.
no.
So,
We have a eruption.
All right, so this is what we were hoping for in our first live stream, but it didn't happen. So I just want to cherish this moment.
yeah, we're going to pause for a moment. Watch the lava spill down the mountainside towards the unsuspecting water.
Yes.
This is another one of those pieces, by the way, in terms of tech that the team had a lot of fun with. Getting from point A to point Z, where we are now, took an enormous amount of work to get this looking like it is. So kudos again to the graphics team, to the art team, for getting this to come out like it is.
All right, so
And
this...
we're going to let Carl mouse over the little icons at the bottom so we can see that while you're on this screen just watching your natural disaster occur, you also can get information about how many tiles it's had fertility to, how many citizens you might have lost from your city, whether any units were killed, and so forth.
But why would you look at that when the lava is making little steam jets come out of the water where it's going in?
I love just the look of the map on Civ 6, but the things that everyone has added to Gathering Storm are blowing my mind. Like, that's really, these details are beautiful. All right, we've watched nature erupt for long enough.
Okay, so back to Carl's missions.
Yes.
So
Take back Granada.
Yes, take out Granada is absolutely number 1, and he has a collection of both levied swordsmen from Rapa Nui. They were initially warriors. I loved how our first look video for Hungary showed you rapidly acquiring troops from the city-states, and it's even more fun right away when you get to like instantly upgrade them, and they're moving with extra movement and extra combat power. So he's got a bunch of them, and then there are, I think, 1 or 2 of the Black Army unique units, and they get combat bonuses for being adjacent to levied units. So I think he has the force to take that. I was a little slow in building the battering ram that I needed for that, so he is a little bit hamstrung by the fact he doesn't have a battering ram for a couple turns. So we'll see how long it takes him to finish off the city there.
Did you touch on the advantages that levied units have as Hungary? Did you touch on that at all?
Well, the first look did, but I didn't, you know, I haven't gone through them in great detail. We actually, you know, we can get a combat preview on them, and we can see that in detail. But so like the Black Army unit has combat strength from the Raven King trait is listed there, and that's, you know, they get a bonus from the adjacent levied units. The levied units themselves are stronger.
And they move faster too, right?
2 extra movement is huge. That's quite a bit of extra power, and so you know you can get those guys right from their home turf of Rapa Nui up to start the siege, like right in the turn. So the other missions Carl has are to go ahead and take the, once he's finished off Granada, we want to take that army and march it back to the west, because we're going to go after Jadwiga. We have old scores to settle with her.
Still got some grievances saved up?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
good.
Whether we do or not, we have our own internal grievances saved up, yes. So we want to go ahead and get that path to the sea worked out. So we want to build, I think we're going to have to build 3 canals to get there. One of the cool things that we've added in terms of the canals and the dams in the game is that now the military engineers you can create can go out and they can speed up the production of those new districts. So it's very much, it works the same way that the Aztecs and the Chinese get unique abilities to help speed up construction projects. But now it's specifically for military engineers working on canals and dams.
That's great.
And so we have an encampment in the city that we created after we raised that Polish city, and so we can build some military engineers there. And then the other thing we should do while we have any spare cycles maybe is start building up our Navy.
Okay.
Because we want to make sure that once we've got this great path to the sea created, we can actually take a force and send it out there.
Yeah, excellent. That sounds really exciting.
Apparently, Carl's levied troops are demanding more pay that he's not prepared to pay yet.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I didn't time this perfectly, so it's not all Carl's fault. I'll take some blame for this because I levied the troops. I wiped out all the Brazilian troops in the area, and then I realized I needed to heal back up before I could actually go after the city. The walls had gone up around Granada, and then I started working on the battering ram, but the whole timing here is a little off, so he had to come up with some more pay. Now, the great thing about Hungary's city-state ability is every time you levy the units, you get 2 free envoys at that city-state as well. So if Carl brings up our city-state display, we can see, we already have, we're 120 turns in the game, and we have 20 envoys stacked up that we've spent, and suzerain of all the city-states that we know of, so.
So in some ways, it kind of pays to be at war and using these levied troops.
Yeah, but they don't have to be used offensively.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, people have been talking about this online. I totally agree that if you like to play a defensive game, you don't have to have your own standing army. It doesn't have to be very big. You can just wait until you need troops.
Okay, so good for turtle players.
Yeah, so it's just good for any time. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Now, we have a problem.
Okay.
Somebody sniped your cell location.
In the beginning of this save, we had the settler up near the Canal City map pin that I had put in. And so I was going, unfortunately, there was a cliff there. So he had to go around to the north and then come in. And then there's this Brazilian scout who was in the way. So I wasn't quite sure how Carl was going to navigate it. But unfortunately, it looks like Jadwiga has once again proven to be our arch nemesis.
Yeah.
And she's got a city there. So we're going to have to, now where that map pin says Canal City, we should just delete that map pin and just go ahead and deploy our army there to take out that city as soon as we can.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
That's, you know what? The best laid plans.
Yes, yes. Got to be able to think on your feet. She's also building up a little navy, so we're going to have a little naval battle there once we get out there.
So we didn't actually get to touch on something that I thought is a pretty neat decision that you have to make when you're dealing with these volcanic eruptions. When that volcano went active, it was a bit of a surprise, but you had some bonus resources nearby. So
good point.
Yeah.
So the very first save we showed, neither of the 2 volcanoes near Buda were active. And I think there's one that's still inactive. Well, next time we scroll west, we can take a look. But the one that we were watching the eruption on has gone active. And one thing to note is as soon as a volcano erupts for the first time, all the 6 tiles around it, assuming they're not mountain, are going to be affected by that eruption. And what's going to happen is any features or bonus resources that are there are going to get wiped out.
Okay.
So I think that's actually one of the ways I got the aqueduct and the encampment both built in that middle city was I was like, okay, time to go send some builders out and harvest the stuff around the active volcano because it's not going to be sitting there forever.
Right.
So there was a stone to the northeast of that volcano, and it was either woods or rainforest on the other side. And I went ahead and harvested both those tiles to make sure we got the yields locked in before we lost them.
All right. So what do you think, moving forward, is going to be the biggest challenge with this situation right now for Carl? besides all of it?
It's a tricky timing proposition for sure, because one thing we haven't told everyone is where canals fall in the tech tree. So they fall on steam power. So he's actually got to get all the way up to an industrial era tech to unlock it. And we said, oh, we've got it, you know, some time for the live stream, but not forever. You need to play fast and get there. So we're definitely challenging him in that regard. One way he can get there a lot faster, he's got to go through industrialization. And if he can get workshops in 3 cities, that's one way he can do it. I'm not sure if that's what his plan is or not. I know he's peaked at the save enough to have a rough idea what he's doing, but I'm not sure whether he's going to take that path or he's just going to hard research through industrialization. But I think getting to steam power and unlocking that quickly enough is one of his big challenges.
Great. So I actually did just see a good question in Twitch chat. Do volcanoes count as mountains for aqueducts?
Oh,
and wonders.
They are actually considered a feature that's on top of a mountain, so all the mountain properties still pertain to them.
Okay, cool. I really appreciate...
Objective number 1.
Nice.
Okay, and so they were liberated, so at this point, I don't need Carl to stay at war with Brazil. He could actually make peace with Brazil if he wants to. I don't know. If he wants to keep fighting, that's fine too.
I'm trying to gauge his reaction to your commentary.
The good thing about our situation with Poland is Jadwiga's already gone and denounced us. So she went ahead and stacked the grievance deck in our favor by doing that. That's another thing that gives you grievances, is a denouncement. And so whenever we want to go to war, we can do that immediately, which is nice.
Look at all those little troops moving. I hope that she knows what's coming.
She should.
Yeah. So do you have any other grievances built up right now with anyone else, or is it mostly her?
Well, there should be some between Pedro and I. For instance, he declared war on the city-state so that he could take Granada. So that initially, at least in the grievance log, have it there. Now, there are a lot of cases where you end up not having any active grievances with somebody just because enough time has passed. But we definitely have gone back and forth enough that we have some grievances.
Okay, so here's a question. How does the liberation of city-states work with the grievances system?
Okay, so that gives you diplomatic favor. So I don't know, people can go back and look at the live stream and figure this out, but we're up to 291 favor up on the bar right now. So that's something that's viewed so favorably by the world that it's not sort of about just the grievances between you and them. And so that's something that the world community is going to give you diplomatic collateral to spend at the next World Congress. So we just award a big block of favor for that. If you liberate a particular person, we still have diplo modifiers for that, so that, you know, that person, you know, you say Russia here or something had a city, the evil Jadwiga had conquered one of Russia's cities, and we went and liberated that, he would remember that.
Right.
And so we'll have a permanent diplo modifier from that. But the sort of third-party diplo modifier that we used to have in for liberation has been replaced by the big award of favor that you get for liberating cities.
Cool. Okay, so a bunch of people just called out that there is a new unit on the map. I think it was a barbarian unit.
Okay.
One of our global units.
The skirmisher.
Correct.
Skirmisher. All right.
Talk about the skirmisher.
We added a stronger scout-like unit to the unit lineup, and we've done a lot of this. You saw some of it in Rise and Fall when we started inserting some other units into the pipe, and this was something to kind of bridge the gap between the scout and later units. So it's a ranged unit. It's kind of cool. You'll see it running around. It's also kind of dangerous, so you can't just overpower a barbarian scout anymore that happens to show up a little too late in the process.
Is he still quick like a scout?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
And same promotion tree, so that, you know, they can get the promotions to move through woods or over hills. And yeah, I think the main reason we definitely wanted to add something to that line was because there was a lot of people who are saying, you know, the promotion tree there is very cool. There are a lot of cool recon promotions, but it's tough sometimes to keep your scouts alive long enough to promote them up into rangers. And having an intermediate unit that has a higher base strength makes that a lot easier.
Everyone's disappointed that he doesn't have a dog, though. I imagine that there's just a field of all the scout dogs, which we found out recently is named Scout.
Right, we did find that out with our Switch campaign, for sure. Yeah, they have to go somewhere because they do run off.
Yeah, I mean, once you upgrade to a skirmisher, I guess, you know, your dog
or even
gets
if
to go be free at a
sadly
farm.
the scout dies, the dog runs off somewhere.
All right, so what do we have here?
So it looks like Carl did not make peace with Brazil.
Carl doesn't make peace.
Yeah, I don't think Carl makes peace.
And it's kind of interesting on this map because there's a fertile river valley between us and Brazil that nobody has moved into. I definitely have it on my long-term radar to move in there. But, Carl's going to surprise us.
Yeah.
But he got something out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that sounds
Pedro
like
was
Carl.
willing to pony up for that. So that's good.
Okay, so we're still moving over towards Jadwiga.
People, I'm sure, have noticed by now that all 3 canal locations are previously marked with little pins, so we know exactly where to put them in. But I actually do like to do that just because sometimes you've plotted out your cities, you figured out where your canals are going, and you don't want to, at the last minute, you know, accidentally decide to drop a district down and forget that that's where the canal needs to be. So it's very useful.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have been talking about, while Carl's moving his army, they've just noticed that a lot of the units have subtle differences and different looks, etc., throughout the game. And this is something that the art team actually spent a good amount of time doing with this particular cycle, and that'll be patched in back to the base game, is doing passes on all of the units in the game. Yeah. They all have ethnicity now, team color they've noticed coming in. We've optimized some units, we've made some units look better. People noticed the catapult when it was being moved, or being moved around by swordsmen now instead of weaponless dudes. So all in all, just a big visual upgrade in terms of the feel, the look, as you're playing the civs.
Nice. I think those little details really do add a lot to bring everything to life. I just love this line of troops slowly marching.
Why don't we have Carl mouse over one of the levied units, see how many more turns we have of them. Although I guess we're doing fine in terms of income. We could re-levy them anytime we need to.
That's true. Okay, so I do have more questions about canals. I know we haven't quite gotten there yet.
Yep.
Besides movement, what do we have? Like, how is this going to affect the game?
Okay, well, one thing that we want to do at some point, whenever it's convenient, is we want to look at our trade route chooser for our trader units, because we got some new stuff in there as well. Now, the key addition is that we now are looking at the terrain over which a trader is traveling, and if that terrain is primarily over water, we're giving large bonuses up to double the amount of gold that comes out of that trade route from just being very efficient in terms of the transport. So we've gone ahead and we've looked at that system, and it calculates based on railroads, mountain tunnels, canals, and water usage.
Okay.
Sort of what we've come up with, sort of like a transport efficiency score for that trade route. And so, yeah, it's great because if you're getting double the gold out of a trade route.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all of a sudden, you know, it's a key change because I think not only does it make canals have a strong economic significance based on putting them in good locations. It's not like you can spam canals everywhere and just get like +4 gold for each one. Now you have to put them in places where all of a sudden your trade routes are going to be better. That's going to enhance the gold that you're getting out of all of them. And you know, one thing we've been trying to do is trying to make it more and more important to have a strong naval gameplay, to want to settle your cities on the coast, those kind of things. And the more that we push the most lucrative trade routes out to being the ones that are going primarily over water, you know, that encourages that very, very nicely.
Yeah, so something for, you know, more militaristic players as well as the peaceful players.
Yes, it's not necessarily, just the way to get your navy out to sea like what we're showing here. It could also be a key economic driver, yeah, for sure.
That's excellent. So have you had any games recently where canals have been like the make it or break it?
I think, this is the one where I tried pushing it the hardest.
Yeah, okay.
I do.
Did you ever finish this game?
I had not.
Or are we watching Carl right now?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to see how.
Okay.
I got to the point where there were so many interesting untold stories here. I've wanted to put it in Carl's hands and see how it played out here. But I certainly would be happy to go back and finish this one.
Yeah, I do think this is a fantastic map for like that purpose.
Right, and I feel like it captures the characteristics of just sort of how a Gathering Storm map looks a lot different than the maps we had before, and how they, the newer geographic elements just sort of play together to kind of give you a whole new look to things. It looks like we've got some barbarians who sprung up in the tundra to the north.
Oh.
And Carl just moved our entire army west, so...
Oh.
Oh well. At least we've got walls
It'll
there.
probably be fine.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Now, the other thing that happened with Poland was I noticed that she was building a city on the south shore of our western lake, and that it was, if I wasn't careful, she was going to impinge on our route out to the sea with our naval unit. So I actually had to buy a bunch of tiles there sort of madly to block her in, right where all those crabs are. And so we do have a couple sad ancient era galleys sitting in that lake. I used those to help, we saw it in the first save. They kind of helped take that first city. But now they're just waiting as part of our naval force to be unleashed. So why don't we go ahead and check how far we are from the steam power tech. So we'll open up the tech tree. And we got to go through industrialization soon. Okay, so we have about 4 or 5 techs still.
No pressure, Carl.
No pressure, Carl.
Are canals a specialty district? Are they more like neighborhoods?
Very good question, and that's part of being able to do an extensive canal network is you'll need more than one in a lot of cities. So if you, for instance, the city that we have between the 2 lakes, that's going to get 2 canal districts. And so they do not count against your population cap, but they do have to meet the placement rules of they need to be connecting 2 bodies of water. And you cannot link a canal with another canal, because then you could kind of make this, so it has to be actively linking either a city to a body of water or 2 bodies of water.
I had a question and I totally forgot it.
What is the fastest land animal?
Thank you.
The other key thing that
one.
we should note that we haven't emphasized is Hungary is unique in that they're not the only civ that has 2 unique units, but they're the only civ I can think of that we've ever done where we have 1 unique unit that upgrades into the next unique unit. So the Black Army unit upgrades directly to the Hussar. And so the Hussar is, industrial area cavalry unit, and it's very, very strong. And so it's very cool to have that synergy. So you get your army rolling, you levy some troops to make it a little stronger. So you've got a nice strong army, and it's just going to continue to be strong, through 2, 3, 4 ages of the game.
Right.
And if you've watched the first look, they're both pretty units.
Yeah.
They look good.
Okay, so I remembered my question.
Okay.
Longest canal that you can make in the game.
So we haven't talked a ton about our new wonders.
It's true.
So I don't know how much of that you want me to spoiler here, but people have a pretty good idea that we might have a canal-based wonder. And I mentioned in, I think, one of the blogs that there's a 7-tile configuration that uses that wonder to help you achieve that. So it's a combination of 2 cities and that wonder. that all have to be hooked up together. If you hook them all up together, you can make a 7-tile canal.
A lot of canals.
And you can do these kind of things here with hooking up lakes as well. I didn't realize until I started reading up on Teddy Roosevelt that the whole plan for a canal between the Atlantic and the Pacific was not supposed to go through Panama at all originally. It was supposed to go through Nicaragua. And the reason they were going to do that was because there's a big lake in the middle of Nicaragua, and so they just have to hook into the lake on one side and then hook in from the other side. It's kind of this exact situation that we're showing here. But they had trouble with that, and the French had started building the Panama Canal and were able to sell that to us. And so we ended up with a canal in Panama instead. But with that kind of lake hookup and putting cities in the right spots, you could make an amazingly long canal.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I imagine with different land configurations, you really could, with different cities and lakes, you could have like a really interesting network.
Right.
That's exciting.
I could actually see Modderswine just to create new map scripts that just are like, you know, a Canal Mania type of map. Where it's just a map that is just extremely fun to hook paths across it using canals. That'd be great.
I like it. All right, so where is our Carl update? Got a couple things going on here.
Okay, it looks like Carl's about ready to go ahead and declare war on Poland. I have not seen how strong the Polish forces along the isthmus are. Oh, he's going to go ahead and do it.
All right.
So we'll declare the surprise war. Jadwiga, yep.
She's displeased.
She's displeased. She's calling us the serpent in the grass? I don't think so.
No. She has been a snake this whole game.
Yep. So the grievances had all gone away, so now the grievance docket is all on our side. It's 150 grievances against us. But that's okay. That's okay. The only other person near us isn't even that near us because Pedro hasn't settled the river valley in between us. So we can deal with Poland first and sort out the repercussions later.
I think we need to mic Carl for one of these streams so we can hear tactically what he is
People need to
planning.
Appreciate the artistry. When you watch Carl go to war, anybody who's played in a multiplayer game with Carl, which back in QA, he's got this entire staff. And every time they're testing multiplayer, he just toys with them. Yeah. They live because he lets them live. And it's just beautiful to watch it all in action.
Raise your hand if you've ever been at the receiving end of a Carl domination.
Yeah. He is going to have a little bit of trouble with that city because he's not going to be able to get it under siege. He doesn't have any navy out on the other side of it. So that's why he's smart to bring up the battering ram, because otherwise the city would be healing every turn and he would not have enough power to take it out. He has upgraded to musketmen though, so I think he should be in pretty good shape overall.
Yeah, I'm feeling good about this. I'm not necessarily feeling like he is going to manage to get these canals in time. But we might be able to see at least a little bit of our, well, we didn't really have our grievances, but we'll get to see some good revenge.
Yes.
Right, so along with canals, we've added, you know, a couple of other like city projects to kind of interact with the world. We talked a little bit about these in the first stream, but I know we've got some people that are new and in this stream, and it's just an opportunity to kind of share a little bit more about them. I find the dams particularly interesting. Can you just give us like a little bit more information about how they work?
There is a dam that I can see that Poland has built just south of Krakow along the river there.
Oh.
Okay, so now, I mean, we're not saying that because we have a new grievance system that, you know, you're free to just conquer anyone in the world in the new grievance systems. Yeah, it's not quite that open. So obviously we did rack up 150 grievances by doing the surprise war. I don't even know why Carl did a surprise war. I think we could have done a formal war. She'd already denounced us. So
He's
yeah,
nodding.
yeah, he's nodding that hit him bad on that one. So we actually picked up more grievances that we should have there, and so Trajan and Peter and Pedro are all going to notice that, and it could affect our relationship for a while. Now there is a cap to how much of a negative diplomatic penalty you can get from what we're calling third-party grievances, which is that type of situation. So because of that, it won't get too out of hand, but it's enough that you can get denounced, just like we just saw there.
Is there a cap to grievances overall?
Not a cap to grievances. There's a cap to how they turn into diplomatic modifier penalties.
All right.
Because now there's that one extra level of indirection.
That's great. Okay. So yeah, we did see that Poland had a dam over by Krakow.
Right.
So can you just talk a little bit more about how they work and what they're bringing to the game now?
First of all, they come a lot earlier than canals. So they're late in the classic
As we see.
era. Yes. So we're struggling to get to our canals, but the dams, you don't have to worry about being as far in the game. So the first thing you want to do is you give up a tile along that river valley to put in that district. So you have to decide, is it worth me giving up, a tile that could have really good farm yields? But you're getting housing from it because it makes that reservoir of fresh water. And then it also is protecting you from damage along that river valley because the flooding is controlled.
You still get the benefits from the flooding.
So yeah, you do get some of the benefits, but that is actually something we're tuning right now, is we're trying to look at exactly what we feel like is fair. I don't think you should get as much fertility if the dam's controlling it. So kind of figuring out what the right balance point there, because we want it to be not a no-brainer to automatically put a dam in. We want you to have to think about it, well, okay, I'm harming the environment there a little bit, but my citizens need that protection, so I'm going to go ahead and put it in this case, or maybe I'll wait a little bit longer.
Right.
And I haven't built a lot of things along this river valley yet, so I don't need the protection. I'll wait for the floods to come in and fertilize it a little bit more, and then I'll start settling there.
There's this new layer of choice and like waiting for things that I'm really digging with this expansion. All right, so
has Carl started any military engineers? I don't know if he's had the chance
he has
to.
not.
I don't think he has. That's going to set back our canal building a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Although
I don't know that he's had the opportunity.
He's been in full-on warmongering mode here, I think, instead.
Oh.
What's happening to our settler?
Well.
The settler escort's dying.
It looks fine. I don't have any concerns.
Well.
I have all of my faith in Carl and his ability.
It looks like he's gotten the walls. Is that Gdansk? That's
one of them's pretty
peninsula?
low.
Yeah, so
he's about ready to take that.
Yeah.
Now, over there, I can't quite catch where it is in the map right now. But is that a spot that we could get a useful canal in if we get there in time?
In which area?
Over here? Yes.
By Astrakhan?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, now my plan had been I had marked on a pin that I was going to settle on a one-tile sort of traditional canal city spot, but I don't think Jadwiga did, so...
so we might have to build a canal there.
Or raise her city and settle, whatever it takes, right?
At this point, we've got a lot of grievances, though.
Yeah.
That might not be the best option.
Might just want to build a canal.
I'm determined to get this navy out.
I can imagine that you're going to take wherever we end up at the end of this stream and just play that on your own time at home.
We may want to show the Hungarian navy on Twitter. Ransacking a few more cities later in the game.
So how much time do you actually play just, at home?
This part of the project, I am playing a lot.
Yeah.
I am playing, I think, more than I'm doing anything else.
Yep.
Just because finally everything is there and the game is getting very clean in terms of, bugs have been squashed and we're in a good place. So I've certainly tried all the new civs multiple times now because I've wanted to, get games in with all them, and so it's cool. It's fun.
It's something that people can take it for granted. Just thinking about game development, it's an easy trap to fall into if you're a developer, to just keep working, laser focused, keep working, and never actually just step back and play what you're making.
Right.
How does it feel?
How does it fit into the
balanced?
greater whole?
Right.
Yeah.
Am I having fun doing this, or am I just going down my checklist? So Ed's always been really amazing with that in terms of blocking out his time, making sure that he's experiencing what he's putting in the game.
And one of the things I'm excited for here is, Civ 6 is a game that encourages you to have a big empire and to have lots of cities. And so we've tried to do some work to make it so that you can play through a Civ 6 campaign faster.
Right.
In Gathering Storm. Now we've extended the timeline, so that's going to make it a little bit longer to play the game. But things like the build queue, and the build manager, which is sort of your overall queue, where you can see all your cities at once. Those help with things, and we've also been looking at things like how often trade routes renew, and pushing that back so that it takes a little bit longer before they renew later in the game, just so you're not hit with the spam of messages. So I think that's one of the huge advantages of playing the game a lot is you're experiencing the same thing the players are.
Exactly.
If there are things that just are too repetitive, are too frustrating, where the decisions are getting too rote, you can say, hey, we got to make a change here. And so that's been really good. Now we have Polish city conquered. Now let's look at, he raised it.
He raised it.
Okay.
To the ground.
Good job, Carl.
Yep.
So that's why he's been hanging on to that poor settler who's abused across the lake there, because he wants to put in the canal city there. Great. Okay. Well, that meets the Hungarian naval objectives there.
Yeah. All right, so we did get, two out of 3.
Yeah.
I would say that if Carl is able to settle that city as a canal city, we could call it, a completion of the goals.
Partially met?
Yeah. It's like 2.5.
I think we would at least have to send a picture of a completed canal district out on Twitter later, or something like that.
That's true. There are some great screenshots with canals in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we haven't really had a chance to build up our Navy yet here either, so. That's fun. I love actually it's sailing a unit right through the middle of a land tile.
Yeah.
Because you have 2 or 3 canal districts in a row, or canal district, city, canal, and you just get to sail your units right through. That has a great feeling to it. I don't want to underestimate how much fun that one little thing can be.
Yeah, and I mean, we've always had canal cities.
Right.
But now, like, being able to see, that canal in the city, going through there, and like your ship's sailing right through the middle.
It's always been a strange visual before.
Yeah.
This actually ties it all together nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really, really cool. All right, Carl, you've got this. I have faith in you. We do have about 10 minutes left, so we'll see what he can get done.
Yeah. And I don't think he needs to stay at war anymore, although he wants to take another city here, I think.
Yeah.
Let's pop up in the grievances just to see where we're at.
A +1. You gave him a task, but he's going to try to go in spades.
Yeah, we're up to 215. Okay, and notice the little +0 above that. People might be wondering what that is. That is the decay per turn. It's usually a negative number. It says +0 now because while we're at war, grievance decay is suspended.
Oh, okay.
And it's only when we go to peace that those numbers are going to start dropping. So we're locked in at 215 at the moment.
Yeah.
And
at least.
Could, yes.
Depending what Carl does with this next city.
Exactly.
It could be interesting, I think, for future live streams, just to get different people at the studio as like the driver and just see the way that they are all playing the game. And, everyone has a different play style. Like, I'm a little more peaceful. I turtle, culture victory or religion. Carl is guns blazing.
We could have all the developers down or the designers in the window at the bottom poking fun and at all the decisions that the random people were making as they were playing.
We can just heckle them. It'll be It'll be great. But that is one of my favorite things about Civ, and just seeing the franchise expand and all these new gameplay features being added is that, you know, these are just new ways to play. These are new ways for different people with different play styles to kind of get engaged and try new things. That's what I like.
Yeah, there are an awful lot of avenues through the game, and you can explore a Civ world however you feel like. Whether you want to be the conqueror, that's great, but if you want to go for the cultural victory and now a diplomatic victory, you know, that just gives you a lot of different options on how to proceed. There are the peaceful diplomatic paths. We've got Gandhi on screen now, so it's the right time to mention those. But you know, it's not always that you have to be the warmonger.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had a question about sabotaging dams. Can you say anything else about that?
Yes.
So one area where, you know, like we do with all of our expansions, we try to look at all of our systems and see which ones need some more attention or some additional content. And we did find that the espionage game could get tweaked up a little bit further here. So the sabotage dam mission has been added. I think we call it breach dam, or because we already had a sabotage mission in there. So that's something that becomes available, and when you are choosing which city to send your spy to, there's a little icon if there's a dam there, so you know that, okay, that's a potential target. And you know, that's a lot of fun as well, because when that happens, the dam gets pillaged, the river gets unleashed on the river valley there, and all the floodplains, you know, are going to have chances to take damage. So that's an interesting new espionage mission. The other things we've done with the espionage is we felt like we were missing some promotions on the kind of defensive counter spy part of the game. And so we added some new promotions there to kind of help make your counter spies stronger. And then this is a very subtle change, but we mentioned last time that we had rebalanced a lot of the governors.
Yeah.
And Amani, I believe, is the governor that got a new promotion. She's always been allowed to go into city-states. And one of the things that we added for Rise and Fall in city-states was the ability to knock out the enemy envoys from the city-state. Well, now, if you send her into a city-state that you want to be particularly protective of, she reduces the spy effectiveness level of all those enemy spies in that city. So basically, you can kind of lock them out from, I think it's the Fabricate Scandal mission that knocks out all your envoys. So you can kind of protect your envoys in your city-state with one of our new governor abilities now. So you add all those together, and so there are definitely some new espionage tricks that players can pull.
Yeah, as we continue these live streams and different situations come up, we can, you know, kind of bring out more of this new content, because I know there is quite a bit of it.
We've tucked it in a lot of little places, and so even remembering where it all is becomes challenging. And so there's some that we'll show front and center in the live streams, and then there's others that, you know, people should keep being observant and going through the live streams carefully, because they'll notice new stuff if they're looking for it.
He still hasn't gotten that settler over there.
No, the
Polish Navy is giving him some trouble
at the moment. I have noticed that.
So I was gonna.
All he'd have to do is declare peace, and he'd have a wide open road. But
I know.
This is Carl.
Yeah, it's Carl.
He will not let it go.
It would have gotten us to the canals faster,
yet.
I think.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The war declaration was too recent. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw him looking in there. He was like, "Okay, I'm ready for peace now."
Yeah.
Oh. So we'll see. He's still got a few minutes left that he could potentially still make that one goal that we had for him.
How many industrial zones do we have, though? I don't think he's going to get this tech boost. So that's going to one.
Two. Got two built.
Someone just asked, how often will we be doing these live streams? So we are planning to do a live stream most weeks, moving forward up until launch.
And I know we can't really say anything about the next one, except I'm really looking forward to the next one.
I am too.
And the cool thing is I think we're going to be able to bring in some even more audience participation.
Yes.
So
yeah,
going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
But that's an exciting.
No, I think that one will be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get Carl back in here for that one. Give him some good heckling. This is my favorite part of, you know, the development cycle, though, is like being able to kind of just share, you know, these inside stories and your strategies as you implemented all these new features, and they can hear it from us.
And I love the reaction. The community, you know, has also. I mean, we've had the pattern over the last couple of years that we, you know, are rolling out first looks and talking about the civs and discussing, you know, how this makes for new strategies and new things you can try in the game. And so the community's been really, you know, embracing being back in that cycle again.
Yeah,
so it's great to see.
Yeah, their excitement keeps us excited. Also, I think he just got denounced again.
By Gandhi.
Well, that's because he's being a warmonger.
No.
You know.
So,
Carl feels particularly ashamed now at what he's doing.
He's done a really good job of demonstrating the grievance system, though.
Yes, that's true.
We didn't talk about that ahead of time, but we knew that was going to be front and center here, and we have really given it a nice little workout here.
What unit is that? I can't. Oh, it's a. Okay. Yeah, I'm really impressed with how far he did manage to get, but I am a little sad that he's not going to get this last city. Do you guys have any final thoughts for either Hungary, canals, grievances?
I would just say, just to close out on Hungary itself, just don't let the perfectly styled hair fool you. This is potentially just a warmonger in the making. I know Ed says he's great for turtling up, and he definitely is. But if you've got the right map seed and you come down, you've got a lot of city-states in the area, you could rule the world with this. Between that, I love the Black Army. The Black Army in conjunction with levied units, just because it gets stronger with the more levied units it has around them. The levied units being stronger and faster than typical units. If you're generating enough gold to just be constantly levying units, you'll just have an instant army, and you can just rampage if that's your play style.
I did way better with my previous. Everyone's gonna say, of course he did, because he's not showing it. But my previous Hunger game was way, way better. I had this pool of city-states that was near my capital, and I just, you know, I got the leveraging game, levying game going with them, so I was able to leverage a whole bunch of envoys out of them. And so I just had this army whenever I needed it, and they were positioned sort of between me and all the other civs perfectly. So I do think Hungary is sort of dependent on how the initial positioning of everything goes. So you'll have very different experiences. It's also how many rivers you have nearby. If you drop into one of those start positions where there's 3 or 4 rivers nearby, your first few cities come online so quickly, and it's beautiful. So they're definitely, you know, I think the fractal map I chose for this one sort of hurt them because there wasn't a big block of land to have some massive rivers on. So Hungary and canals and naval game, yeah, that's kind of a strange combination, but I thought it was a fun one for us to try for here.
Yeah, it definitely had an interesting story to it, and you know what you were trying to do was unique.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think we're just about out of time. Unfortunately, Carl did not make all of his goals today, but he gave it a very good effort.
In fairness to Carl, if he didn't have all the animations on, he totally would have gotten there. Right?
That's true. That's true.
I'm almost positive that's why.
Well, we can keep that in mind for next time. Awesome. So thank you guys so much for, you know, just coming in and taking the time out of your day to share some things with everyone. And thank you to all of our fans out there for watching, and we will see you guys soon.